some problem with the desktop, and I'm not able to show my board and writing. So I will show by slides only. Okay, today you have to bear it. And so last class we discussed about the diesel cycle, and we have derived the efficiency of the diesel cycle. And we have done 2 problems on diesel cycle based on the data. Sometimes you will be given what is the maximum pressure or temperature from which you can find out what is the heat addition. Sometimes you will be given the heat addition from which you can find out the maximum temperature and pressure. And then we discussed that the practical cycle for diesel cycle is the dual cycle. When the speeds are high, we normally inject the fuel before the top dead center. So there will be partially constant volume combustion and partially constant pressure combustion. So I will have dual combustion cycle or mixed cycle or limited pressure cycle. So that is the way we call it. And we have derived the efficiency of the dual cycle. And we have seen how to solve a dual cycle problem also. And we have seen the comparison of performances Otto, dual, and diesel cycle under different conditions. Okay, one of the normal condition, if somebody asks which is more efficient, you have to ask how about the parameters. Whether compression ratio is same for both, or the maximum pressure and temperature are same for both. If compression ratio is same for all the cycles, then Otto cycle is more efficient, right? And dual cycle comes in medium, and diesel cycle will be less efficient, right? So that's why, as I told, diesel cycle, we want to improve the efficiency, and we go for high compression ratios. So same compression ratio we will not have. So you cannot say petrol engine is more efficient than diesel engine, though Otto cycle is more efficient to compare it to diesel cycle for a given compression ratio. Okay, so because in diesel cycle I can go for maximum more pressure and temperature in the maximum limits. I can have very large compression ratio, and that's why practically diesel engines are more efficient compared to petrol engines. So if you compare again through PV and TS diagrams, all the cycles for given maximum pressure and temperature, then you can see the diesel cycle is more efficient, dual comes in between, and Otto cycle less efficiency. Okay, these are the things we have discussed in the last class. Just I am showing the things what we have done in the last class. This is the dual cycle, and we have compared. So these are the things. And okay, this is gasoline engine and the diesel engine. As I told you, the difference between them, and the top of the head, cylinder head, you will have spark plug for petrol engines and fuel injector for diesel engines. And so to send the mixture, I will have a carburetor before the cylinder. And here to send the fuel with a high velocity into this, so I should have fuel pump. Okay, that is the main difference between these two physically. And okay, these are the things in printed form. And we have seen that the efficiency of the diesel cycle increases with the compression ratio. You can see the increase, and also it depends on the cutoff ratio. Okay, so if the cutoff ratio is reduced, it approaches the Otto cycle. So it approaches the Otto cycle because when the cutoff becomes less and less, it becomes almost like Otto cycle. So that is the way the variation of efficiency of the diesel engine with respect to compression ratio, it increases continuously, and with respect to cutoff ratio, as cutoff ratio increase, the efficiency decreases. And this is the dual cycle, and I can all these things we have discussed, and we define compression ratio, expansion ratio, and cutoff ratio. But in the final expression, we will not get expansion ratio because compression ratio, total compression ratio, is a product of expansion ratio and cutoff ratio. So we can eliminate expansion ratio in the final derivation of the efficiency like this. Okay, dual cycle problem we have seen, and this is the comparison we have seen for the same compression ratio. You can see that the area under the curve. So this is Otto cycle, constant volume combustion. It will give more for the same heat rejection. Heat addition will be more, and the network also will be more. And for dual cycle, it comes in between, and the diesel cycle with constant pressure combustion, which is having less slope here. So this will have minimum area and minimum efficiency. And coming to the other condition where the maximum pressure or temperature is same, so I will have the cycles like this. Again, the QL will be same, and as QH increase, efficiency increase. And for Otto cycle, this is the constant volume combustion process. And so I will have less area and less efficiency. For dual cycle, this is the combustion, and for diesel cycle, this is the combustion process. So I will have more heat added, and so more efficiency I will have. Okay, this is the way I can compare. And so these are the same figures. And then, as I was telling many times, that there is a cycle, Lanoir cycle, right? And this is a cycle used in pulse jet engine. So when later we will talk about sometime in one class about jet engines. And one of the engine, jet engine, you might not have come across, it is called pulse jet engine. In pulse jet engine, there will be constant volume combustion. All the jet engines, there will be constant pressure combustion if you come across gas turbine, right? Because gas turbine Brayton cycle where there is constant pressure combustion. And here in this jet engine, we will not have gas turbine. There will not be any rotating parts. And this is a particular jet engine, a different configuration. We will discuss later. But this uses Lanoir cycle. And it is based on the operation of the engine patented by Lanoir in 1860. This engine is often thought of as the first commercially produced IC engine. The absence of any compression process in the design leads to lower thermal efficiency than the more well-known Otto cycle and diesel cycle. Okay, this is a simple cycle and without any moving parts and all, but its efficiency is less. And okay, here this is the cycle in PV diagram, and there will be an isentropic expansion, and here constant pressure, heat rejection, and this is constant volume, heat addition. Because isentropic, there will not be any heat transfer, and this is isochoric heat addition, and this is isobaric heat rejection. And you can see here in the TS diagram, constant volume, this is constant pressure, this is isentropic. So you can see that because 1 to 2, it is going right side, there will be heat addition, right? And the heat addition will be more than 3 to 1, which is coming down. And this is heat rejection, which is having less area under this. So I will have net work done in this. So you can see 1 to 2 isochoric heat addition, 2 to 3 isentropic expansion, 3 to 1 isobaric heat rejection, and also compression takes place during cooling itself. There is no separate compression process, but compression has to happen because whenever there is an expansion, if I want to close the cycle, there will be compression. There is no separate compression, right? So during cooling itself, there will be compression taking place. Okay, now Q1 is the heat addition. It is in constant volume, so CV into T2 minus T1. And Q2 is the heat rejection. It is in isobaric, so Cp into T3 minus T1. So 1 minus QL by QH, we will get like this. And here for this process, we define what is called as pressure ratio. In the constant volume, it is increasing from P1 to P2. So P2 by P1, I will take it as define as the pressure ratio. And here in the same way as we have done for the other things, so we can take T1 common, I will get T3 by T1 minus 1, here T2 by T1 minus 1. So you can find out what is T3 by T1 and T2 by T1 in terms of RP, and I will get this expression, 1 minus gamma into RP power 1 by gamma minus 1 by RP minus 1. Okay, so this is the expression for Lanoir cycle. So as I told, this is not much efficient. This is not much efficient, and but it is used in the pulse jet engines. So that is the main important things. And if you want to solve a problem, again, the T1, T1 conditions will be given to you. And to go to this point, I will be given either QH will be given or what is the maximum pressure you will be given. So some parameter is to be given. If QH is given, from QH I can find out T2. Okay. So in that way, if maximum temperature is given, I can find out what is QH. And so in that way, I can find out the condition set 2. And here it is easy because P1 equal to P3. I know one condition here. And these pressure ratios give me temperature ratio and volume ratio. I can find out all the conditions at 3. Okay, that is the way I can solve the problem. And there is a problem given here. So same thing, the temperature and pressure at state 1 are 400 Kelvin and 150 kilopascals, and the temperature at state 2 is 800 Kelvin. So temperature is given. So from that you can find out QH, and T2, P2, everything you can find out. So sketch and label the PV diagram of the cycle, estimate the specific heat rejected, specific work done in each step of the cycle, and estimate the thermal efficiency. So once you know all the temperatures, then you can find out the heat transfers and work done. And there is another cycle which is called as a standard Atkinson cycle. Okay, so there is a Atkinson cycle. Sometimes it is called as expanded Otto cycle. Okay, so Atkinson cycle or over expanded Otto cycle. So if you see here, there is constant volume, two isentropics will be there, just like Otto cycle and diesel cycle. In Otto cycle, there will be two constant volume processes, right? And in diesel cycle, there will be two constant pressure processes. Here there will be horizontal line, and here also there will be horizontal line. So it is converted to what is called as Atkinson cycle. So in Atkinson cycle, what happens is, so if you take Otto cycle like this is Otto cycle, 3, 4s, 4a, 5a, and if it is expanded further till it reaches the ambient pressure, right? So then it comes this way. So this is extended. So because of that, what happens? My area of the cycle increase. It is previously it is suppose if you remember Otto cycle, this is release. So I am opening the exhaust valve, right, before the pressure reaches the atmospheric pressure, so that all the gases will be pushed out. Okay, but here in this engine, we will try to expand it till it reaches. So that's why there is the further expansion, and there is further more work, because of which I will have additional work. And the same way, if you see the diesel cycle, so diesel cycle will come like this, right? So diesel cycle, here horizontal line, here horizontal line. But here, this is vertical line, so this much of additional work I will have. Okay, so that is that. And if you want to see it in the TS diagram, that is also easier to understand. So if you see here, this is the Otto cycle, and this is the Atkinson cycle. If you add this piece, I will get the Atkinson cycle. That is, here constant volume heat addition, here constant pressure heat rejection. These are isentropic. This is 3, 4, 5 is continuous isentropic line, and 1, 2 is isentropic line. Two isentropics, constant volume heat addition and constant pressure heat rejection. Okay, so this is the Atkinson cycle. And if you see here, two isentropics, and constant volume is this, and constant pressure is this. So this is the Atkinson cycle. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 5 is the Atkinson cycle. And if you want Otto cycle, so in Otto cycle, both are constant volume lines. So 1, 4, 2, 3. So you can see that this area is less. And if I want to have diesel cycle, so here from 2, I have to draw a constant pressure line. Okay, so this will be still less. You know that the diesel cycle efficiency will be still less for the same compression ratio. And now the Atkinson cycle will have maximum efficiency. So you can always logically say that the top line should have more slope and bottom line should have less slope, so that I will have more area occupied by the cycle. Okay, so that's it we want. And this is the way Atkinson cycle will come. So in the Atkinson cycle, again, we'll see what is the heat addition, constant volume heat addition. So Cv into T3 minus T2. And what is the heat rejection? Constant pressure heat addition, heat rejection. So Cp into T5 minus T1. So this is the way. Again, you can write this 1 minus QL by QH and gamma. And again, take T1 common, you will get T5 by T1 minus T1. Here T3 by T1 minus T2 by T1. And so here we define compression ratio. So compression ratio is from 1 to 2. So V1 to V1 by V2 is compression ratio. And expansion ratio, because it is expanding from 3 to 5, V5 by V3 is the expansion ratio. And also you can have the, that these two are sufficient, expansion ratio and compression ratio. And using this, you can write T3 by T1. So you can see that T3 by T1 is equal to Re power gamma by Rk, and T5 by T1 is Re by Rk. Like that, we can write everything in terms of the compression ratio and the expansion ratio. And in that way, I can get the expression for Atkinson cycle. So this is the expression for Atkinson cycle. And we have seen what are the advantages. And the application, actually, it is a constant volume heat combustion gas turbine cycle. Right? Brayton cycle is constant pressure heat combustion gas turbine cycle. And if you can have constant volume combustion there, I can have large volume in large increase in the efficiency, right? And how to have constant volume combustion in a gas turbine cycle? So that is the question. So people have tried, after compression, take it into a closed chamber, right? And burn it, then release it to the turbine, okay? So that I can have constant volume combustion. So this is the way we can achieve. But there are some practical problems people have encountered. Okay, what is that? I should have a closed chamber into which compressor gases go in, and after burning, the high temperature gases has to go out. So I should have walls on the inlet side and the exit side, right? So on the inlet side, okay, somewhat no problem. So the gases go from through the inlet valve into the chamber, and after the burning, the temperatures will be very, very high. And that is to go through the another valve into the turbine. So the valve materials, right, to withstand such high temperatures, they found it difficult. Okay, so operating valves also, you should have some other mechanical parts, and there will be because the high pressure will be there, leakage problems will be there, mechanical design problems will be there, and valves material problem is there. There are so many practical problems they have encountered. And another main disadvantage is I will not have a steady flow. Okay, when valves are open, there will be gases coming and rotate the turbine, and otherwise there will not be any gases coming. So there will be intermittent supply of power or the gases to the turbine, so which is not efficient. And so turbine should not be there. There should be a reciprocating engine type so that it can produce work. And so these are and if you have reciprocating engine, you will not have high speeds and you will not have uniform power. All those problems, whatever we have discussed about positive displacement and turbo machines, we will encounter. So Atkinson cycle, this is the one. Again, this is a theoretical interest we have discussed, but practically it is not used. If you want to use, you have to have a constant volume chamber to which the compressor gases go in through valves. The burning takes place, and the high temperature gases have to go through the valves again back and to the turbines. Okay, so that is the way. But this is an Atkinson cycle. We have to know about various cycles. And there are two more cycles we discuss, which are again ideal cycles, which has equal efficiency of the Carnot efficiency. So we will see them. So one is what is called a Stirling cycle. Right? Here there are two isotherms and two isocores. There are two isotherms and two isocores. Okay, here we will see how it works. Okay, and here this is 1, 2, 3, 4 cycle in the PV diagram and also in the TS diagram. And 1 to 2, this is constant expansion, heat addition from the external source. Okay, practically I will show you this. This is the one which works. This is a Stirling engine, right? There is a Stirling engine. There is what is called as regenerator. Okay, this regenerator is something like mesh or plug-like thing or material which has high heat capacity, right? It can store large amount of heat and it can release that amount of heat whenever we want. Okay, this is like a storage, heat storage device. Okay, so here if you see, initially suppose these two are the pistons. This is at state 1, right? And here I have gases at high temperature TH. Okay, gases at high temperature TH. Now I bring a high temperature reservoir here and slowly expand this. Okay, so there is increase in the volume. There will be expansion takes place. This piston is going this way, and so there will be constant temperature heat addition. Because of expansion, temperature will try to come down, and because it takes heat, the temperature remain constant. So I will have isothermal expansion and heat addition. So 1 to 2 it takes place, and after that both pistons move towards right. Okay, so the volume of the gas will not change, and this gas from this side to this side it will come to the mesh or regenerator. So what happens? This regenerator takes away all the heat, and its temperature gets down. The gas temperature will become TL. Okay, so this is the way it happens. From it comes to state 3. Now it is at state 3. The volume is not changed. The volume, whatever it has at high temperature, it has now at low temperature, right? So this is state 3. Now what happens? So from 3 to 4, there will be compression. So I will try to compress. So what happens? Its temperature try to rise, but I will bring a low temperature reservoir here so that I maintain the temperature constant. So 3 to 4, there will be compression and there will be heat rejection. Okay, heat will be taken out. And 4 to 1, again, both the pistons move backward to the left to get the state 1. So it comes to the state 1. So what happens? This low temperature gas will take away back the heat, whatever is given to the regenerator, and it becomes TH temperature. Okay, so this is what the cycle happens. So there will be heat addition during 1, 2, and there will be heat rejection during 3, 4. And whatever heat is given, this is the heat given to the regenerator. This is heat gained by the from the regenerator. So if you do it well and everything ideally works, so this area is equal to this area. It takes from the high temperature gas, will reject it to the low temperature gas, and so the net heat transfer to the regenerator is 0. And so the heat is given here to the working fluid and taken away from the working fluid. So QH minus QL, again work done. Okay, this is the way the Stirling cycle works. Is the working of Stirling cycle clear?
Sir, can you explain third and fourth step once again, sir?
Yes. What, please?
Third state and fourth state,
Okay.
sir.
So 2 to 3, now it came to state 3, right? So here it has TL temperature, right? And here now I try to compress it. So it's compression taking place from 3 to 4. And during compression, what happens? Actually, temperature has to rise, but at the time I will bring the low temperature reservoir here. So it takes away that heat, right? And its temperature maintained constant. So there will be isothermal compression with heat rejection. The same way as we have done here. When I am supplying heat, I am expanding it. During expansion, there should be a drop in the temperature, but it takes heat from the high temperature reservoir, and the temperature maintained constant, and constant temperature expansion is taking place. In the same way, constant temperature compression takes place here. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So that is the way it happens. And coming to the efficiency, it is very easy to calculate. So 1 to 2, which is heat addition, because it is isothermal, change in internal energy is 0. So both will be same, heat transfer and work transfer. I know work transfer for isothermal process is RT1 log V2 by V1. And Q23, this is isentrope, Q23, this is isochoric, so work done is 0. And Q41 is also work done is 0. And heat rejection Q34 is W34. This is again RT2 log V3 by V4. Okay. So, and another thing is, because they are working between the same temperatures, the volume ratios will be same. And when I substitute here QH minus QL by QH, these volume ratios gets cancelled. I will be getting with T1 minus T2 by T1, or TH minus TL by TH. So this is what is called as Carnot efficiency. So Stirling cycle, ideal Stirling cycle will have ideal Carnot efficiency. Efficiencies are same. So only thing is I have to have a perfect regenerator which takes away heat and gives away same heat to the gas. Okay, that is the Stirling cycle. And here two isotherms and two isocores are there. Instead of isocores, if I have isobars here, that will become Ericsson cycle. So this is what is called as Ericsson cycle. This we have discussed already when I talked about gas turbine Brayton cycle, when you have infinite number of intercoolers and infinite number of reheaters, so that isobaric processes will become isotherms. Okay, so in the same way, here two isobars and two isotherms are there. Okay, two isobars and two isotherms, and again there will be what is called as heat exchange process. So whatever heat that is taken away from here is added here, but actual heat addition takes place here. Okay, so if you see, the only thing is here there is flow process will be there. It is like this. So here constant temperature heat addition is there, where I lose. Okay, first I will go to here. There will be constant, just like isothermal Stirling cycle. First initially I have isothermal heat addition, right? So in the same way, here expansion is taking place in the turbine, and during expansion temperature may drop, but I am supplying the from the high temperature reservoir to heat it. So there will be heat addition here, and this is isothermal heat addition, and then it is going through this and it loses heat to whatever is coming from the low temperature here later. Okay, so it loses heat. But this is isobar, because this is, as I told, in heat exchanger, in combustion chamber, all those things, constant pressure processes. Because it is a steady flow system, there will be constant pressure. Heat rejection takes place from here to here. Okay, and then there will be compression. And during compression, there will be increase in the temperature, but I bring low temperature reservoir here and I take away the heat. So actually it is TH here, and it loses heat here to become TL. And that TL, when it is compressed, when it is trying to increase the temperature, I bring low temperature reservoir to which the heat is lost. Okay, and then this TL goes through this heat exchanger and takes away whatever heat is given by the working fluid. This is just like a regenerator that is there in the Stirling cycle, and that is the way the cycle continues. Okay, so it is similar to Stirling cycle, where there is a regenerator like whatever called mesh, and here there is a heat exchanger that is there. Okay, and when you come to the derivation, it comes, instead of volume ratios, I will have pressure ratios here. You know that for isothermal process, this is RT1 log V2 by V1 or RT1 log P1 by P2. So I write in terms of pressure ratios, and the pressure ratios between these two processes will be same. And so when I write 1 minus QL by QH, these pressure ratios gets cancelled and RR gets cancelled, and I will get 1 minus TL by TH, just like a Stirling cycle. So only thing, the difference between Stirling cycle and Ericsson cycle is there isocores are there, here isobars are there. There also I assume a perfect regeneration, here I assume a perfect heat exchanger. Okay, so that is the difference. And if you see all the processes here, cycles here, these are all having the same efficiency. We have Carnot cycle, TS diagram and PV diagram, and we have the Stirling cycle, TS diagram and PV diagram, and we have the Ericsson cycle, which is having the TS diagram and the PV diagram. So here there is what is called as regeneration, and so this area under this line and area under this line should be same, and otherwise the heat addition will be the top line and the heat rejection will be from the bottom line. Okay, and so this is the way the things happen. Okay, anyhow, then the Brayton cycle. Brayton cycle, you know it already. So we have the compressor, combustion chamber, and turbine, and then cooling. As I told, it is a standard cycle. Basically, in gas turbine, this 4-1 is open. This 4-1 is open, but I assume there is a cooler here. Okay, so here I assume instead of having combustion chamber and leaving it to the atmosphere, here I assume a heat exchanger where heating is done and here cooling is done. Okay, so that is the way we assume. We replace heat addition and rejection processes through heat exchange processes or by heat exchange processes. Okay, there will be heat addition during isobaric combustion, and there will be heat release during isobaric expansion. And because these are isentropics, there will not be any heat transfer. Okay, this is the TS diagram and this is the PV diagram. Okay, these things, again, as I told, in turbomachinery, whatever you are learning, so the Brayton cycle efficiency is W net by QH, that is 1 minus QL by QH. And here the heat loss is constant pressure, Cp into T4 minus T1, and heat addition, Cp into T3 minus T2. So 1 minus QL by QH, we will get like this. Again, take T1 common and T2 common here. So T4 by T1 minus 1, T3 by T2 minus 1. Here we define what is called as pressure ratio. Pressure ratio, P2 by P1 is equal to R or RP. Okay, P2 by P1 is pressure ratio. So I will get T2 by T1 is pressure ratio to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. And this pressure ratio for this compression and pressure ratio for the turbine is same. So this temperature ratio is equal to this temperature ratio. So T2 by T1 is equal to T3 by T4. So if you just exchange this, so you'll get T4 by T1 equal to T3 by T2, and these two gets cancelled. I will get 1 minus T1 by T2. And T1 by T2 is R power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So the Brayton cycle efficiency, I will get 1 minus 1 by RP to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay, this is the way we get the Brayton cycle efficiency. And so here, if I want to find out how the efficiency varies with the pressure ratio, I will get like this. Okay, so when RP equal to 1, the efficiency is 0. As RP increase, the efficiency increase. From this expression, you can see as RP increase, this denominator increase. So 1 by this one decrease. So 1 minus this will increase. So as RP increase, the efficiency increase. So this is the way I will have continuous increase in the efficiency. But when you come to the work done, so work done, there will be increase and the decrease. And there will be an optimum pressure at which I will have maximum work. Okay, what happens is, if I have more pressure ratio, okay, so if I have more pressure ratio, I will have figure like this. And so what happens is, the compression work will be very large if I have more pressure ratio. And the expansion ratio, it will be like this. And as the pressure ratio increase, this vertical line and this vertical line become closer and closer. And I will have a maximum pressure ratio at which the turbine work is equal to compressor work. So again, there will be 0. Okay. So if I see here, I think I don't have that figure here. So what happens is, so when I have large pressure ratio, what happens? The difference between compressor work and turbine work becomes reduced, and there is a limit at which I cannot have more pressure ratio. If this is the maximum pressure ratio, so it goes up and comes down. Why? Because this maximum temperature is limited. Okay, this maximum temperature. If I want to increase the work, I can increase this T3 to any extent, and I can increase the cycle area. I can have maximum work. But this T3 is limited by the material of the blade. Okay. And one thing I wanted to ask, if anybody answer, okay. So we talk about metallurgical limit in gas turbines. And the maximum temperature that we may go is around 1200 Kelvin to 1500 Kelvin. Okay. And very rarely I can go to up to 1800 Kelvin. Okay. Very, very costly things. And I have to use costly materials. And the life of it will come down and all. So many problems are there. So we have metallurgical limit, which is very, very important to consider. But when we talk about Otto cycle and diesel cycle, so at the place of combustion, at the spark plug, the combustion temperatures are 2000 Kelvin. It is such a high temperature. But we never talk about metallurgical limit in the petrol engine or diesel engine. Why? Can anybody answer? Yes?
Because we don't have blades in auto cycle, sir.
Okay, if not blade, what problem is there? Okay, I have some other materials there.
Mainly work is transferred due to the flywheel and the piston, no, sir.
No, still better. Okay, first answer is somewhat better. So blades which are thin and all, it cannot withstand high stresses and all. Yeah, that's Satish, short time. That's very good actually. That's the one which I want. Okay, it is steady flow in gas turbines, unsteady flow in IC engines. Okay, so steady flow means if a gas turbine, okay, if it faces some temperature, some 1500 Kelvin at a particular time, all the time of running, that particular portion of the turbine faces the 1500 degrees centigrade only. What do you mean by steady flow? If I measure any property at any particular point, it's not going to change with time. Okay, that is what is steady flow. So the portion which is facing high temperature will always face the high temperature, maximum temperature. So that is the one of the main problem. And another thing is, anyhow, as you were telling, the blade material, they are very thin and it cannot, and high centrifugal stresses will be there. It cannot withstand such high thermal stresses. Okay, and here in the coming to CI engine and SI engine, near the spark plug, it is 2000 Kelvin, and there is no material there, right? And gases are there. There will be flame, combustion starts, and by the time the high temperature gases reach the cylinder walls or piston wall, its temperature comes down. So there is no material at which these high temperatures are there. So there is no material problem. Metallurgical limit is not there because of that. Is that clear? Because expansion takes place. The burning takes place and the expansion takes place and the temperatures come down. It is unsteady flow. Continuously temperatures decrease during the expansion. So it is only instantaneous, right? That high temperatures are only instantaneous. So that is the why there is no metallurgical limit. Okay. Right. So that is because sometimes people ask in interviews, you talk about metallurgical limit there and here you don't talk about metallurgical limit there. Okay. So this is an important point I want to stress on. And so this is the maximum limit for the pressure ratio and maximum, and again, as the pressure ratio increase, so what is happening? Maximum amount of work is taken by the compressor. And at the limit, the work is zero. And at the same time, now I decrease the pressure ratio. As I decrease the pressure ratio, the PV diagram, the TS diagram will become like this. So what happens as my pressure ratio decrease, the heat lost will increase very much. So you can see that from the figure, the heat addition is almost equal to heat rejection, right? If I make it still lesser and lesser, when R equal to 1, it just goes and comes back like this between the minimum temperature limit and maximum temperature limit. So all heat is added and all heat is rejected. Okay, there is no expansion and rejection because R equal to 1, there is no expansion or compression. So this is the other limit for the compression ratio. There is a minimum limit R equal to 1 where the work is 0 and maximum limit when the compression goes up to the maximum metallurgical limit, right? So I cannot add any more heat here. So no heat addition, no heat rejection. There will be only compression and expansion, compression and expansion, compression and expansion. There is no heat addition or rejection. In the same way, the other limit, heat addition, rejection, no compression and expansion. These are the two limits of minimum pressure ratio and maximum pressure ratio for the Brayton cycle. So I should have an optimum one in between these two. And it is found that the optimum one comes when this compressor exit temperature and turbine exit temperature are same. When T2 equal to T4, so that gives me the optimum pressure ratio. So that can be proved. Now, because I don't have this board and all, I am not doing that. Maybe in the next class, we will try to do that. Okay, today somehow I am not quite happy because I don't have that board and doing the things, and hope everything is clear. And so the cycles come to an end. Actually, we have to discuss further Brayton cycle and the improvement of the efficiency of the Brayton cycle using intercoolers, reheaters, and heat exchanger. All you have done in your turbo machines. And here also, if you see that chapter, you will have problems on that. We will not do them, right? But we have to because we have done problems on the first law, we have done problems on the second law, and we will do some problems on the entropy also. Entropy, one or two problems we have done, but still we will go in detail, keeping mid in the mind. Is it okay? So we will go to the story then, right? Any questions? Uh, So where do we use the Atkinson cycle? That's what I was telling. The Atkinson cycle, the uh, usage is to have constant volume heat addition gas turbine cycle, right? So that is the application, but they tried to use it, but it was not successful because of the practical problems. As I told, Wankel engine, it works well and beautiful design and all, but due to mechanical design problems and leakages and all, that was not successful. In the same way, Atkinson cycle, also because of the valves operating at such high temperatures and not having a continuous flow, unsteady flow, and the intermittent power. So this made it impractical, right? Maybe, I don't know, in future it may come to be practical. So we will go for the story. Today's story, it is about one story told by his own biography. He has given some incidents. President Xi Jinping of China, right? So he talked about it. He says, when I was a small child, I was very selfish. Usually, if you see children, children are very selfish because they want to grab everything. So he doesn't want to normally share anything with other people. Anything, whatever he is carrying, if you catch, that fellow will cry. And he wants to possess it. And he doesn't want to share. As we grow, we will come to know what is good and what is bad and all. Slowly, we have to become polished and matured and all those things. And usually, all children are selfish only. But some are more selfish. They will cry, beat, and other things they do. Okay, so he says, I was very selfish, always grab the best for myself. Slowly, and as he grows, actually, he has to change himself, but he didn't change. And because of that, everyone left me and I had no friends. I didn't think it was my fault, but criticize others. So normally people blame others, right? And my father gave me 3 sentences to help me in life. So this is interesting. One day, my father cooked 2 bowls of noodles, but the 2 bowls and put the 2 bowls on the table. One bowl has one egg on the top, and the other bowl does not have any egg on the top. He said, "My child, you choose. Which bowl do you want?" And the eggs were hard to come by those days. Only get to eat eggs during festival or a new year. Of course, I choose the bowl with egg naturally because I want it. As we started eating, I was congratulating myself on my wise choice or decision and the wallop of the egg. Then, to my surprise, as my father ate his noodles, there were 2 eggs at the bottom of his bowl beneath the noodles. I regretted so much and scolded myself for being too hasty in my decision. My father smiled and said to me, "My child, you must remember what your eyes see may not be true. If you intend on taking advantage of people, you will end up in losing." And the next day, my father again cooked two bowls of noodles, one bowl with an egg on the top and the other bowl with no egg on the top. Again, he put the two bowls on the table and said to me, my child, you choose. Which bowl do you want? This time I am smarter. I choose the bowl without any egg on the top. And to my surprise, as I separated the noodles on top, there was not even a single egg at the bottom of the bowl. Again, my father smiled and said to me, my child, you must not always rely on experiences because sometimes life can cheat you or play tricks on you. But you must not be too annoyed or sad. Just treat this as learning a lesson. You cannot learn this from textbooks. And the third day, my father again cooked two bowls of noodles. Again, one bowl with an egg on the top and the other bowl with no egg on the top. He put the two bowls on the table and again said to me, my child, you choose. Which bowl do you want? This time I told my father, Dad, you choose first. You are the head of the family and contributed the most to the family. My father did not decline and chose the bowl with one egg on the top. As I eat my bowl of noodles, sure in my heart that there is no egg inside the bowl, to my surprise, there were two more eggs at the bottom of the bowl. My father smiled at me with love in his eyes. My child, you must remember, when you think for the good of others, good things will always naturally happen to you. I always remember these three sentences of my father and lived and do my business accordingly. True enough, my business was a roaring success. So that's the story. I liked it very much and I wanted to share with you. Okay, see you again. See you on Wednesday, 10 o'clock. One more weekly test you can have in this week if you want. So when do you want? I think we don't have any time. Maybe this weekend, if you like, we can have on 22nd. Saturday, I don't know whether it is working day or holiday because 23rd and 25th are holidays. And 25th Sunday, no? I don't know how many people will be willing. And people cry, people complain, people shout at you and everything. Yeah, that is better. You would decide and tell me. Actually, that's why. Actually, if last week, if you have the test, it would have to have been nice. But unfortunately, nobody wanted to have the test. I think better we have one minor on entropy problems. Okay, anyhow, we'll see and tell Himavarsh about whatever it is. Okay, thank you. See you again tomorrow. We are leaving a bit early. Anything if you want to ask, you can ask. You can stop recording, I think.